I'm going to do something very dangerous now. I'm going to take a lead from my guest. I have no idea what it's about. He just said, you know the link between Russia and Inspector Colombo? I love Colombo. I have no idea what he's talking about. But he's Jim Carafano, so I trust him. Vice President for the Heritage Foundation, our expert for all things national security and foreign policy. Please elucidate, Jim.
Wait, you remember all those great TV shows?
And I grew up on them.
Okay, Colombo, right? Colombo was, you knew who the murderer was.
From the beginning.
And that's right. And the murderer was just this really smart guy who was smarter than Colombo. And at the end of the thing, right, the show.
One more question.
Yeah. Colombo, he would do something stupid because they were so arrogant, yes. Right? And then Colombo would arrest him, right? So you loved the show because it was the same plot every single week.
I think I'm getting where you're going now.
As was every TV show, right? The beaver would have a problem. The beaver would have a crisis. His dad would talk him through it in the living room, and then everybody would be happy at the end, right? So have you noticed that all these scandals going after President Trump have exactly the same pattern? Somebody leaks information. The media crafts a negative scandal narrative. The opposition is outraged. There are massive investigations, and in the end, there's no there.
Are you saying that there's some wizened old Hollywood scriptwriter from Colombo who's on the pay of a certain Democratic force and the media, and it's just, this is fabulous. This is so true. But you're right. And it's the same pattern, isn't it? It's always like some big accusation, then it's watered down. Well, that's not exactly what happened. Then when that fails, there's another permutation. Well, really, this happened over here. And by the end of it, right. It's like a puff of smoke.
Right. So Adam Schiff the other day, I was just gobsmacked, right? So the New York Times article said Trump was briefed on Russians putting bounty on American soldiers and did nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And then immediately the Director of National Intelligence, the Secretary of Defense, the National Security Advisor, the Chief of Staff, the President, the Vice President, they all came out and said, no, that's not true. The President was not briefed. Right. So the central tenet of the story is proved false.
Right.
And Adam Schiff comes out and says, well, we all know that the intelligence community is afraid to tell the President what he doesn't want to hear. Well, first of all, that's a different narrative.
Yeah.
And do you have any evidence at all for that? And of course the answer is no, which just goes to me, it just says this is, just like Ukraine, just like the Mueller report, just like everything else. It's a created scandal to go after the president. And all I say is, look, prove me wrong. Because here's the contrary to that. What evidence do we have? When the Iranians went after Americans and we got verifiable, actionable intelligence, and we caught the guy in charge, red-handed in Iraq, trying to kill Americans, the president said, take him out.
Yeah.
So the president, when the Syrians tried to attack Americans, the president said, take them out. Every time anybody's come after Americans and it went to the White House for the president to make a decision, his answer was, get him.
Yeah,
right. Okay, he didn't shoot back when they shot down the drone. There are no people on the drone. But people forget. There was a manned P-8 reconnaissance aircraft that was flying with a crew of, I think, about a dozen. Mm-hmm. And the president said if they'd shot that down, it'd have been a different story.
Right.
So the president's track record is flawless on this. And yet the narrative is the president's afraid to defend American soldiers. And we have no proof for that.
And words, the sloppiness of how words are used. There was Biden after 89 days comes out of his basement. And he says, well, if President Trump didn't know, that's a dereliction of duty. James, that's not the definition of not knowing that something occurred. If it occurred, is not dereliction of duty.
Well, and
these things matter.
Right, and of course we know how the intelligence process actually works. Right. And what the New York Times basically did was disclose an ongoing intelligence operation, which we all know is anytime you do that, it just makes collecting and verifying that intelligence more difficult and more politicized and actually puts people at risk. So it's not, as far as the evidence that we have, it's not the president that's putting American soldiers at risk.
At risk.
It's the New York Times.
Yeah. A sad reality, not the first time, and it won't be the last. We're talking to the Vice President for National Security Foreign Affairs at the Heritage Foundation, the mothership of the conservative movement. You have to check them out regularly, heritage.org. Follow him at Jay Carafano on Twitter, and check out every day the Daily Signal, their media platform. Join them today. You won't regret.